4:45 p.m. Thank you. I apologize. All right. Roll call. Mr. Mark Anderson?
Here.
Mr. Harry Block?
Here.
Mr. Bruce Mandrick?
Here.
Mr. Jack Turner?
Absent.
Lily Campbell present. Four board members present tonight. Do we have public comments?
We have no public comments at this time.
Okay, thank you. Welcome, everyone. And I ask you to forgive me when I make mistakes tonight. We're just using our new system, so I've got to get used to the button on and the button off. So welcome. We're so glad to see so many of the faces. Board members, thank you for being here. Cabinet, all of you, we're so proud that you're here with us tonight. So welcome. And those of you who are watching us virtually, welcome, and we're glad that you're present with us. So with that, we will continue with our board agenda. And at this time, we will have the superintendent's update. Welcome, sir. We're glad you're here.
Thank you, Madam President. So first of all, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to tonight's board meeting. You know, I have to take a special moment and just kind of have a special note that this meeting tonight marks the 1-year point since the board returned to in-person meetings, and at this time last year, you selected a new superintendent. So, wow, what a year.
Whoa.
What a year.
And we got new systems.
Exactly. So tonight's a night of remembering and a night of newness. So with the holiday season up on us, I trust everyone really had a relaxing Thanksgiving break as well as getting ready for the upcoming winter break. I want to give a special shout out to our board member, Mr. Block, who I believe celebrated his 18th birthday on December the 9th. So happy birthday, Mr. Block. He asked me to make sure that I, gave the number correctly, but happy birthday, Mr. Block. It is that time for our annual GCC art contest. This year's theme really encouraged students to create artwork that reflects their future aspirations. I must say the submissions that I had a chance to look at were nothing short of spectacular. And I want to affirm Dr. Gold and her team of professional learning coaches, Adrian and Kimberly, for coordinating this project. Beautiful work, and we look forward to, at a later date, sharing some pictures and things like that. Love our student artwork. It's just really great. On November the 15th, we were happy to join our GCC Foundation and their wine, cheese, and chocolate event. I think you'll see a few pictures up there. You may recognize some of those faces. It was really a great opportunity to connect with our partners and talk about the GCC, our commitment to our students, our portrait of a GCC graduate, and the remarkable educational initiatives that we have taken place in our schools. I want to publicly thank, obviously, everyone that attended this wonderful night and event, but I also want to affirm Sergey, Maisha, and Maury for their work and making this event a huge success. So once again, congratulations to that team. On November the 17th, we launched our AI, Artificial Intelligence Community of Practice. This group is a collaborative space where our teachers, admin, and staff can share experiences and best practices about AI. And the Community of Practice also attended a training on December the 11th, which was this week, with Rachel Mann, an AI expert who challenged our educators to rethink their approach to teaching and preparing students for an AI-driven future. I want to affirm Dr. Gold for really taking this on and embracing AI and being futuristic. Okay, being futuristic about our work. I'm really proud overall of GCC embracing this. On December the 6th, I had the opportunity to attend the AXA AI Advisory Group and join other administrators across the state in a small group to discuss best practices, as well as the future of AI in K-12 education. So I'm proud that Gateway is being seen as a trailblazer in this area in both the comprehensive and charter school world. Earlier this month, I had the opportunity to attend the Sarah Health Foundation Leadership conference and sat as a panel member representing the K-12 voice in terms of community health needs of our students, and this was really driven from our work around our community needs assessment. Other partners that were there were Los Rios, Sac State, and University of the Pacific, who also joined on the panel, and again, having the opportunity to share more about what we're trying to do and how we're trying to ensure that academic excellence is seen across all of our schools. We continued our work developing the GCC strategic plan and looking forward to bringing that information to the board at your mid-year retreat. In the alignment of our goals, priorities, on December the 4th, we had a small work group that joined to begin to gather and discuss innovative ways to elevate our impact and effectively meet the needs of our students. I want to affirm Board Member Anderson for his support and leadership of this wonderful initiative. And again, we look forward to bringing that information back at our mid-year retreat as we continue our work group meetings. On December the 6th, we held our CBAC meeting, where our partners gave us some feedback about the Portrait of a Graduate, but it was really more about getting information about our community schools initiative and the work that we want to do. And I don't see him here, but I want to affirm Sergey for his work on that item. And I'm almost through with my report. I know, Madam President, you're like taking a breath there.
Yeah.
And then on December the 6th, I had the opportunity to attend the Slavic American Chamber of Commerce holiday event where I had the chance to speak with business leaders about the GCC, our schools, and our initiative, and how our business leaders can partner with us and we can partner with them to find employment for our students. Finally, our admin team met and our administrator leadership team. I want to make sure I get that correctly. And we really talked a lot about board. You may remember at your last meeting, you asked us to have some discussions with our team around chronic absenteeism. Mm-hmm. We've started that conversation with our administrators and definitely wanted to report back to the board that we had some very meaningful conversations, not only about student chronic absenteeism, but also staff absenteeism and the importance. So I want our administrators to know the board's very cognizant and interested in the outcome of those conversations, and we'll continue to have those deep dives into the information. And then finally, our business team, we had the opportunity to attend the all-important CASBO holiday workshop, we'll call it that. But in reality, part of that week was spent getting information about the fiscal outlook for California. And later tonight in one of our study sessions, our CBO, Omaira Reyna, will spend some time beginning to walk us through what the fiscal outlook is for California, as we both have kind of learned different things as we attend our various meetings. With that being said, I want to conclude by saying happy holidays to everyone, and that concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Superintendent. Board members, any comments?
I'd just like to compliment the students for decorating the Christmas tree in the lobby. Very nice.
Absolutely.
Anything else, board members? Thank you. You've been busy again, very busy, and we appreciate all of the hard work everyone is doing to make sure that GCC is aboard and doing what it's supposed to do. So thank you, Superintendent. And now we are going to move into our study sessions. The first one is Facilities Project Update. And Mr. Jerry, you're on that one. You want to bring him in?
Yes, so Madam President, this item is just to kind of update the board on one facility project in particular, which is the 5839, I get that right? Dudley Boulevard, also known as CalFit, also known as COA Dudley C. And we want to just kind of update you on some of the details of that project. Mr. Little.
Yes, so thank you and good afternoon, Ms. President, board members, cabinet, and superintendent. I just want to take the time to give you a little update on where we are with the former CalFit building. As you know, we have been working on this for some time now. You guys have seen this picture here quite a few times on the board retreats and things like that. This is what it will look like interior-wise once it's completely done. A little bit of history to get to the point where we are today. As you know, we have been working on the plans with the county. Some good news, we finally got the plans approved. as of November 17th, and we took those plans and went back out to bid again and received those bids back on December 6th. Earlier in the year, we did do some demo work on the building, trying to save some time because we knew it was going to take some time with the building department to try to get a jump start and do what we can prior to going into the full build. So looking forward from this project, you can see the couple of the demo pictures there. And also, being that this was a former gym, it gives us possibilities for the athletic opportunities. These two areas right here are not in the scope of what we'll be doing, but they are existing already in the site. So they need to be cleaned up a little bit, as you can imagine, after being a building and a gym that's been shut down for 4 years because of COVID, and then recently us taking it over. It needs a little bit of cleaning up in there, but that will be a later project. So moving forward from now, as I said, we went out and we got the bids back on December 6th, and we've got a timeline now of what we're looking at, which would be this one here. We'll briefly go over that. This is showing us, if we start in January, we're looking at probably being done in September, but that has a lot of fluff in it right now that will be tightened up. Our hope is to have this done by the beginning of school in August so we can have the students there. To do that, we'll be focusing on the interior construction of the project, getting the classrooms, restrooms, everything up on that part, and the accessibility to the building completed, and have some minor stuff on the outside to finish. But the focus will be able to get the students in the seats for the beginning of the school year. This will be kind of what the outside is, the rendering of what we submitted to the planning department. So the building right now, if you drive by, it doesn't have a lot of color on it. So we'll be adding this color, which is a lot of the same color that COA uses right now on their campuses. So it will just kind of blend in with that as well. So just a caveat too, while we do everything we can on our end to kind of keep the schedule on track, there are some things that can still delay a project, as we know, in construction, and a lot of that could be lead times on products and things like that. But we're pretty hopeful as we get an early start that we'll be able to mitigate that and be able to get everything going on time and hopefully, like I said, be done in August for the start of school. And with that, do you guys have any questions on that project?
Board members, any questions, comments? Well, we do appreciate this information, and thank you. We know that you've been working to get this project together and get it started, so we'll be anxious to see how it comes along by August time. So thank you
Yes.
very much.
Thank you.
Any comments, Superintendent? Okay, the next item is California Fiscal Outlook Update. And Ms. O'Meara, that's you.
Yes, so as Ms. O'Meara is coming up, one of the things that we wanted tonight to do with the board is to share with you some of the information that both O'Meara and I are beginning to receive from the Legislative Analyst Office around just kind of what the fiscal outlook is for the state of California. We also know that, this is kind of the first step, and then we'll start moving into the January budget and the May revise and all that. But we wanted to, as this information became available to us, I know O'Meara has been very actively involved in getting information from CASBO, school services. I recently received an update on this from AXA and am scheduled to receive one Thursday from the California Charter Schools Association. But we want to share this information with you tonight as we kind of come so that you have an idea of where legislatively things are going. So, Myra.
All right. So I'll go ahead. Thank you for that intro. So as Jason mentioned, on Thursday, December 7th, the Legislative Analyst Office released a budget fiscal outlook update presentation. Jason was able to listen to it on Thursday. I was able to listen to it on Friday. And so some of these pictures are from that presentation. And so I'll kind of go over on where we are generally in the state and what kind of issues we're seeing. So for the 24-25 year, and that's that very first bullet, we have going into that year, $68 billion budget deficit for the state. In coming years, we have an additional $26 billion deficit for 22-23. we had anticipated already 14 or close to that at adopted. This is now increasing to 26. So you see that the negative 38 billion in that 23-24 year. And a lot of this is due to the lag in the 22-23 tax revenue income. So those extensions put us out to not knowing where we were going to land in 22-23, and then again in 23-24 not knowing where the state needed to make cuts. So this would have looked a lot different if those extensions weren't in place. And so we would have made cuts, the state would have made cuts in the 23-24 year further than what they did. So I'll kind of go over some of the solutions of how they're going to try to resolve this. And of course, this is just the LAO speaking. It's going to go through legislation. It's going to go through the governor's office. There's going to be everybody and anybody giving their input on what needs to happen to get us to where we need to be for the following year. So the LAO points out that the state reserves address the shortfall using the Prop 2 and Prop 98 reserves. So we are in a very different place than we were in the Great Recessions. The actual cuts in revenues, percentage-wise, is about the same that it was in the Great Recession. Only difference is the reserve balance is very different. So we now have tools to address these shortfalls, okay? So I'm going to go, so this is the state outlook. This is now just educational funding, so Prop 98 funding levels. So first I'll explain the three charts and the 3 different years. So the LAO and the governor's office are always looking at these 3 years concurrently, right, in terms of trying to figure out how they're going to budget for the next year and how that will impact the future years. So for 22-23, if we would have known in May what our revenues were, we would have been funded at that 98.3, right? And for the future year. So we were short the 7.7 billion. We were funded at the 106. So the middle column is what we were funded at. The very first column is the enacted budget. There's always the difference between the enacted budget and the base funding assumption. So the dark blue to the middle greenish looking light green color, that is what was put into the reserve. So the change between the 107 and the 106 is what goes into the Prop 98 rainy day fund. Okay, so in the 23-24 year, we were funded at the 106.2. That's with the COLA that we currently have, which if they were to do the minimum reserve, we would be down by 4.2. And then in the next year, looking at 24-25, you see that the blue is where they're going to fund us next year. So the middle green, light green color is what our first interim budget reflects. And so our first interim is already behind the 8 ball, right? It's already old news. But this is the latest and greatest information we have. This is information we will carry on to our next budget assumptions to ensure that we are not over budgeting. What some of the solutions that, well, I won't go to the solutions yet, but some of the things that the LAO office has recommended and is hoping that the state accepts is to end up declaring a budget emergency to be able to dip into those Prop 98 reserves. And so that they're hoping that that will offset the 22-23 and some of the 23-24 year. They are hoping that they don't use up all those reserves in case we continue to see dips in revenue, state revenues. But there potentially could be one-time cuts to programs. So in the 23-24 year, they're looking at what programs have been allocated as one-time, kind of like they did for those block grants, right? And seeing what can they pull back, right? Potentially, right? Nothing has come out concrete yet. These are just ideas the LAO is kind of throwing out, starting to get us thinking about what we need to do on our end in terms of budgeting, are we going to be conservative with some of the newer grants, et cetera. So that's what's happening in 23, 24, 24, 25. They are just going to bring us back down. And with that, they will probably just not fund COLA. So they're estimating about a 1.27 right now, cost of living adjustment, which is different than what we did for first interim. I believe it was in the 3% range, 3-point-something% range. We'll kind of go over that in more detail at the first interim budget presentation. But that just kind of gives you an idea of where we're at and what kind of things they're going to do to try to solve this situation. Some of the solutions, I've mentioned some of those. So the first bullet was just, the first one was to withdraw from the reserves. We actually, the 24 billion worth of reserves is what we have in Prop 98 reserves. So that is all of it. So they're hoping, the LAO is hoping that they only dip about half of that, right? They want them to keep some of it for future emergencies. Reducing Prop 98 spending across the 3 years. I don't know how that would happen if it's already been allocated. I think that's very unlikely. I feel like they're probably going to use the reserves to fund 22, 23 and kind of keep us somewhat whole in the 23, 24 year. But again, not until we know more information. I have a feeling there'll be more information in January, but I don't think it will be concrete information until May, maybe even July. So that's just to kind of give you guys a heads up. Reduce one-time spending, I spoke about that. They have about $8 billion in 24, 25 of one-time money that they potentially could start dipping into. So that's just information. The other solutions are cost shifts, moving things around. Just practice of budgeting is moving things around. We won't fund this to cover this, or could we find savings somewhere? So that's what they're looking at and talking about. Just a little bit of information on the reserves. This slide is from AXA, and it talks about the components of the rainy day fund. It has two components. It's the budget stabilization account, and then there's the Prop 98 reserve, or public school system stabilization account. And like I mentioned earlier, 24 billion is what we have currently. When the Great Recession happened in 07, 08, we had 1.7 only. And so that was swept right away, and then we were in a crisis, right? So right now we're in a better place in terms of what we have in reserves to kind of ensure that we're not as impacted as heavily as we were during that time. And that's about it. The second bullet just talks about how money goes into this rainy day fund. The 1.5 in the second bullet of that piece is what I was talking about, the difference between the first enacted budget and then what we received is that 1.5 that goes towards that reserve. And the other one is just anything excess of the 8% of total general fund revenues is going to, if they have excess, it's going to the rainy day fund. And with that, I will entertain any questions.
Thank you so much, Ms. Lamar. Board members.
So Myra, the governor's supposed to have his budget out next month, is that right?
He's going to have an update and probably some solutions. I would imagine that he will have some solutions on how will that impact us right now in the current year, and then kind of looking ahead in the 24, 25 year. It'll be interesting to kind of see what happens. But as we saw, I believe last year, things were kind of lagging in terms of decisions, right? They said we were going to cut, and then we budgeted the cuts, and then, it was turned around in July, I believe. So, yeah, we'll keep you updated on any changes that happen as we find out. I'm sure there'll be some significant information in January, so we'll give you guys an update then.
Anything else? Did you, Bruce? Thank you so much.
You're
It's
welcome.
a wait and see kind of thing, so.
Yeah, but I mean,
That's
it
what
looks
we-
like we're doing good in
doing
terms
okay.
of the reserves.
Yeah.
And so we are in a much better place than we were during the Great Recession.
Yeah.
So, okay.
So, thank you so much. We appreciate the information. All right. And so with that, board members, we are now moving to consent agenda items. And just for the audience, I will read those. Adoption of the GCC Board meeting minutes, 11/14/23. Personnel consent agenda. Purchases over 30,000. TK early admittance and early enrollment approval. And the last one, disposal and surplus technology. I will entertain a motion for the consent agenda items.
So moved.
Shall move.
Second.
It has been moved in second. Discussion. Any discussion on any of the items? Yes.
I'd like to know on the Youth Investment Center, I looked at that we're approving and.
On what? We're not at business. We're not at,
No, this is on the budget. This is over 30,000. Youth Investment Center.
Yes, so
okay.
Director Block, the Sacramento Youth Center, this is a partnership that we've actually had for a few years with Community Collaborative, or CCCS Charter School. This agreement is an amendment to what we've already previously approved for an additional 10,000. SAC Youth Center provides for us mentoring, enrichment programs. We've even expanded some of our programs to serve additional students there. And really, we have found this to be an extremely valuable partnership for both our students as well as the community.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, roll call. Mr. Mark Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Harry Block,
Yes.
Mr. Bruce Mandrick,
Yes.
Lily Campbell, yes. Unanimously approved by all board members present. Thank you very much. And now we are moving again to item 7, business. The GCC first interim and financial report. Again, you're on stage.
So, Board, as Omira comes up to make this presentation, I just want to take this opportunity to publicly affirm Omira and her team for really their hard work on this. I will tell you, as an organization that has 9 of these, it's not that easy. I think she'll tell you the total number of funds we have within those 9 budgets, but I definitely want to take this opportunity to affirm Omira.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And of course, this is a team effort. I want to thank publicly principals for their input in our budget meetings, directors, executive directors, and human resources in trying to gather as much information as they can give us in terms of making sure that we don't budget positions that are vacant and we are not planning to fill because we can't find the position, et cetera. So thank you to that team. And of course, my budget team. If you guys are here, you guys could stand. Valerie Rogers, Director of Business Services. Lillian Matu, she's our Supervisor of Fiscal Services. Yvonne Gracer, also our Supervisor of Fiscal Services. And our two Budget and Financial Analysts, Cindy Ponikvar, first time I could say her name, and Drew Gibson. So thank you for all the hard work, late nights, stress, and headaches that this brings on us, but it's something that we do. And of course, like I just said, as soon as an update comes out, we are already behind and now working on the next budget update. I'm going to go ahead and go over what I will be going over today. So I'll give you guys a brief introduction. I will have review the LCFF calculator, the formula. We'll go over enrollment and ADA. We'll go over the unduplicated pupil percentages. I will review the revenue, the expenditures, and the fund balance, and also components of the ending fund balance, and then some of the risks that we see coming ahead. Okay, so just a brief introduction on what this interim budget is. You've probably heard this many times, but just for those who are viewing us and don't know what an interim budget is, it's basically the change between adopted budget and then what our latest information is as a first interim. When we adopt our budget in June, we are planning a lot of vacancies as people leave us, as people are being hired, as enrollment grows. right? Those changes are reflected of our first interim. So our original budget is as of June 30th. Our board-approved operating budget is the same because that was our last approved budget. And then our revised budget is today our first interim, so that will reflect those changes. And then it will also track expenditures through 10/31/2023. This presentation will focus on comparing adopted budget to the first interim, so the changes between those two points in time. And then additional details, a lot of information in that budget book. That's, I think, almost 400, 500 pages. So you will find more details there if you need to dig in. Part of our LCFF revenue, we have budget assumptions. So our COLA, probably the last high COLA we'll see in a while, is 8.22%. And so as of right now, we haven't brought that down. There's no news or information of anything impacting this yet. 20% is supplemental grant per ADA. 65% is concentration. That's for schools that have a unduplicated population above the 55%. So all our schools qualify for that. And then grade span adjustment for grade levels K3, they get an additional 1,032. Our 912 sites get an additional 312. And then the components that make up the LCFF revenue are the LCFF base, so that's your unrestricted dollars that go to fund your teachers, just for your general operations of your school. LCFF supplemental and concentration, we track that by itself, and it's a requirement now to ensure that we carry over in that category this particular piece, and that is for our unduplicated pupil that are at our sites. So to ensure that they're getting additional resources and services to help educate them and help them be successful in our schools. We have the Education Protection Act. That's another set of basically unrestricted dollars that need to be used for instruction. And then property taxes. We get that from our LEA, our oversight LEAs that so Washington, Twin Rivers, San Juan, Elk Grove, and Sacramento City Unified. Main sources of revenue. So what drives our LCFF is our ADA, and then our unduplicated pupil percentage is the second driver, and obviously COLA. So the COLA impacts this. And then this budget has multi-year LCFF assumptions of 3.94% COLA. So that's that number I was saying that next year is looking like a 1%, 1.27% is what they're estimating. So at second interim, that number will be brought down to reflect where we think we're going to be for next year. And then for 25-26, it was 3.29. Here are enrollment and average daily attendance. We have increased overall 202 students since the beginning, since adoption, right? So as our estimates, we estimate really conservative at adopted. We look at our C beds from prior year. We kind of look at the trends to kind of see, okay, where do we think is a conservative number? And then first interim is reflective of what's happening with enrollment as we see week from week what's going on with our enrollment trends. And these are numbers as a first interim. For the most part, all our sites, for the exception of some of our independent study schools, have growth. We expect that some of these sites will have increases as we're seeing an uptick in enrollment at those sites. So that most likely will change for our second interim period. Our average daily attendance is a 3-year average that I kind of do a look back based on enrollment. And so that's 166 more of the 202 that I anticipate we will be able to claim to be able to get funds for LCFF. Here's our unduplicated pupil percentages. For the most part, we have decreases in this population, very slight. They're not real big differences. And so that kind of gives you an idea from school to school kind of where we're at With the unduplicated, we are still very high unduplicated, over that 55% threshold that the state looks at to be able to fund us for concentration funds. But we are seeing a little bit of a drop, but you can see from Twin Rivers, they're also dropping slightly. So just looks like it's kind of across the board. Our LCFF increase is impacted by the ADA that we just talked about. The 166.34 is what gets added into the calculation to be able to increase the funding. The COLA has remained the same as adopted budget at the 8.22. Unduplicated obviously also factor into the changes. And then the net impact was 2.2 million. So you can see that there. Here's a slide of our general fund revenues. You have your adopted budget, your first interim, the variance. The pie chart kind of shows you what we have, and I thought this was a good slide to kind of show you how much money do we get from each of the categories. In total, 75% come from LCFF. So attendance is super important because that's where we get the bulk of our funding. We have 6% federal, 13% state, and 6% local. Right, and I'll kind of go over the increases in each of the categories in the next slide. So for LCFF, we already talked about what caused those changes. So that's that 2.2 million I just talked about. So moving on to the federal. This increase is due to our estimate versus our unaudited actuals of what our carryover would be. Right, we were trying to spend most of our ESSER. There was some stuff that carried over to the following year, some title funds and some ESSER. And also we've applied for empowering possibilities to receive a child nutrition fund. So we'll get money from the feds and we'll get money from the state. So those are what makes up the 818,000 that we're seeing as an increase. From state revenues, we have new programs, right? And so when we talked about the one-time money, these are the ones that are ringing in my head, right? These are the ones that they're going to be looking at, right? So Prop 28, the art, music, schools, dual enrollment, that's 500,000. They won't touch child nutrition. So that's one that I think that will stay flat. But for the other two, we probably want to be conservative moving forward. So we don't know what's going to happen with the state. The remainder was unearned revenue, also carryover from these big CTE programs, the CTIG, and also known as the Career Technical Education Incentive Grant and the Strong Workforce Program, and our after-school program, and the Universal TK. So those are the programs that had a carryover that rolled into the next year, increasing that state difference of 2.8 million, right? At adopted, we are estimating what our carryover would be. Once we get to first interim, we know exactly how we landed from unaudited actuals that are presented in September to be able to tell us, okay, this is now our true number. And for local revenue, the increase was 1.8. We had a really big interest payment for quarter four. So we do quarter four to quarter three because quarter four is always lagging from the state for interest. And our quarter four interest was really high this year. We even questioned and made sure that it was correct, but we received a $1 million interest payment this year for quarter four. Quarter one, we did E-rate recording or reconciliation of our E-rate, and so that is recorded in other local revenue. So general fund expenditures went up from 108 million to 114.7 million. And this is just the pie chart to kind of show you where we are in terms of staffing, certificated, classified benefits, just percentage wise. What is it of the total amount of expenditures? Okay, so that's just a slide for your reference. Okay, now I'll go over some of the changes. So we had a lot of savings in salaries. We had 1.4 certificated salaries. And I kept looking and looking at all these budgets and trying to figure out why did we have so much savings? We have 38 certificated teachers that we haven't been able to fill. Certificated staff, from psychs to SPED to classroom teachers, right? So 38 vacancies currently in our system that we are actively trying to hire. So this really illustrates what's happening, not only to us, I'm imagining this has happened across the state of California, right? Classified salaries, it was a little bit less of an impact, but 238,000 with 22 unfilled positions also. Benefits went the other way. So I had to kind of look and see, okay, what's going on with benefits? It's health and welfare. So we had a lot of people retire, people come in at the beginning of the year. We don't know what they're gonna end up applying for, if it's gonna be for family, single, not get benefits, right? So part of it is that increase. And the other part is the increase you guys approved to increase the cap on health and welfare. So it's a combination of those two things. So that is what increased for the benefit category. For books and supplies, the increase is due to the following categories on how they landed in prior year. So unaudited actuals is our kind of a guide, right? Where were we in prior year and what should we budget this year? Reasonably taking off some of the one-time expenditures. So we increase the books and supplies, the textbooks, instructional supplies, non-capital equipment. So those categories had increases, and then the rest of that is unallocated. So if we have, for example, dual enrollment, we have 2 other grants that have dual enrollment. There's one third one that was just awarded this year. We're kind of leaving that as an unallocated until we figure out what is the state doing with this money, and 2, you know, when we have more plans, right? We're already trying to spend 2 other buckets, right? So that's a reflection of that category. Okay. We are on to services and other operating expenses. So some of the salaries that we're seeing in the dip in, the 1.5, that we're seeing decreases, a lot of that is funded through the scoop, right? We have to have a classroom in with students, right? Some of these classes, you know, we're still struggling. We're trying to find actually another vendor to try to help us, you know, be able to have teachers in the classroom, right? So this is made up of Scoot, it's made up of transportation increases, ELOP vendors, et cetera. So that is what the 2.5 is made up of. So we'll go on to the next one. It's capital outlay. It's $2 million increase. And I stated some of the projects that we have going on. At adoption, we knew about COA, the CalFit building that you just had an update, but there is other little projects that are coming up as needed. So we had some playground installation at CCCS, or still happening. We had CTE classrooms for CCCS. You guys just heard about the COA campus. We have some HVAC installations that we need to do at the COA middle school for the multi-purpose room, because they don't have air conditioner. Development of the fields. There was a consultant engineering design that you guys just approved not that long ago. So we're anticipating some expenditures this year. Not a whole lot, but we're waiting. Bathroom facilities enhancements also at RDP. Expansion of classroom space also at RDP. Renovation of the old culinary classroom space that was at Sava PI. Installations of gate and vehicles, gates for vehicles. I think that says RDP, but I think there was also one at Sava PI. Field enhancements at GIS, additional portables, classrooms at GIS. That's also something we're working with San Juan on. construction of outdoor bathrooms for Epic, that's in the works, and implementation of an alarm system at Elk Grove. So a lot of these things that are needed at our sites, sometimes we don't know until the site starts requesting some review of facilities, and so those are conversations that happen in cabinet, and we make decisions on what we're going to fund and what are needed and what is the priority to ensure that our kids are in the best facilities, in the best shape that they can be. Okay, we're down to the fund balance. So at adopted, we had 64.9 million. We in reality are at 73.7. So the difference between those is what happened in the audited actuals. We had a savings of 8.7 from what we estimated to where we landed, right? Revenue and expenditures, that's the difference. So that increased our fund balance by 8.7 million, right? And then you have the increase and decrease of expenditures. We got more money and we had more expenditures, but the net change of those was also a savings of 1 million, right? So we received revenue, let's say it was 5 mil, but we only are spending 4 of that. So that's your 1 mil that you're seeing, right? That's just an example. And actually the numbers are below. It's 7.8 million in revenue that we received, 6.7 that we're spending, and that's why you're seeing that 1.1 million in increase, decrease of the current year and bringing it up to 9.8. So our ending fund balance is projected to be 67.6 at this moment. And I'll go over the components of ending fund balance. The chart on the left of me is the different components. So we have the restricted programs, non-spendables, facilities, set aside reserve for sustainability, reserve for economic uncertainty. And I've put the percentage of expenditures in the next column so you know how much, this is a percentage of expenditures. So reserve for economic uncertainty is 5% of your expenditures for that given year. So we have 5 for reserve for economic uncertainty, 10 for reserve for sustainability, and currently the rest of it is sitting in facilities set aside, which is the 40%. The pie chart gives you a percentage of what it is to the fund balance, to the ending fund balance, right? What is the 67.6 or 67.7 million percentages of each category? So that kind of gives you, that's what the pie chart gives you. And then I just put what our minimum, what do we try to have in each of these categories? Right, so you can see that the remaining of our fund balance, we put it into facilities based on the projects and things we have for our sites. Some of the risks moving forward, as we just heard, uncertainty with the state revenue. What is the state going to do with this deficit? How are they going to resolve it? How is that going to impact us, right? So that's very important. The 0 to 1% COLA projections for 24-25, we were hearing that, but nobody had actually said it. So we have actually now heard it from the LAO that is going to decrease to the 1.27 or something close to that. Increase of costs and goods continue to be high, right? We have some wars that could potentially impact us, the Ukrainian-Russian war and the Israel Hamas war. We also have volatility still in the stock market. We continue to have minimum wage increases. And recently, we also had fast food workers' hourly rate increase to $20 per hour, and kind of seeing how does that impact our classifications, our lower classified positions, and how do we stay competitive, right? We have teacher shortage, as we just saw. And then we also have one-time funding expiring at the same time. So those are some of the things that are always in the back of my mind when working on budgets. I will entertain any questions.
Thank you so much, Ms. Omari. Board members? Yes.
First question, if the Russian war and the two wars stop and all the kids head back home, what are we gonna do?
That's a good question. We don't have ADA protection, so we would have to adjust accordingly to enrollment numbers. So less enrollment means potentially less teachers, so we would have to find savings somehow to ensure that we stay within our revenue. And a lot of our sites have healthy reserves, and so if we had a year where it dipped like that, then we would obviously start touching those facility reserves that are above the 15 minimum.
And maybe just to add to CBO's comments around that, we've also, in discussions with Sergei Tarakov as our kind of liaison to that community, we are tracking very much the number of families that are seeking citizenship within the U.S., which lets us know that a number of those families will stay. While we will lose some, we will have a significant number that will stay in the U.S.
Thank you.
Okay, my second question is on transportation. Are we filling our buses that we are picking up kids and taking them to school?
We do. We have buses at HLA, Futures, GIS, COA. I think that's it. Did I miss anything? We have kids that are being transported from a distance. We have Robla that does some of our transportation, and then Michael's is backfilling what Robla can't support. Robla is a lot less expensive than Michael's, and so we always try to find whatever, if a local district can support us in those transportation needs, we always go there first.
Yeah, see, we spend a lot on transportation. That's what.
But we also have to spend in order to bring the students in too, so we have to look at it both ways, yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm just checking
Yeah.
if we not filling up the buses, then that's a problem that I can see, because we just.
Yeah, we do review that and make sure that we know kind of how many, ensure that we're being fiscally sound in terms of what we're transporting, how we're transporting kids and how many buses are being transported.
And Director Block, as a follow-up, staff will go ahead and look kind of into our ridership and report that information back to the board via Friday letter.
Okay.
Mark?
Omari, I just have a couple questions. So can you explain to me under this, the fund ending balance, what are non-spendables?
Non-spendable will be what's in our revolving cash account. So we have an account with Wells Fargo that's for revolving purposes to allow, to pay out terminations, people that leave us. We have a certain amount of time to turn those around, so it's for that. It's also for emergencies. Let's say we had, I don't know, a check that we needed right now because the kids don't have AC or something broke and we need to do that right away, and we need to turn around and check, and we can't wait for the county. That's what that's for. And it's also prepaids. So anything that we pay this year, but it's really for next year, we account for it in that category.
So is LOC part of that? Is that when you say the Wells Fargo? That's
LOC?
line of credit?
No.
Okay.
No,
That's totally
that's
separate.
totally separate. It's just the Wells Fargo account with the ASB account, so it's
Okay.
your ASB accounts and your revolving clearing account.
And then just the other one is this interest income. What are we getting the interest income on?
It's for the balances that we have in our cash, so the
Oh, right.
county Sacramento County Office of Ed ends up estimating that, and they send us an apportionment, and
That's significant.
it is. So we did question it. We did send an
Yeah.
email back and ensure, it's not an error. We did ensure that that number was correct, and they said yes. So,
Thank you.
yes.
Anything, yes, Ms. Mandrick?
Yeah, I do want to commend Omar and her staff. I really do know how difficult managing 9 school districts is at once. So one of the things we talked about was the fact that the state has a nice reserve that's helping to balance things. But the thing we didn't mention, I think is equally important, is that we have
Reserves.
good reserves because people have been conservative in operations, and this is the time when those good reserves really come in handy for us. We can kind of moderate the
impact.
downfall and make adjustments over a longer period of time. So I want to commend all staff for that, because the school sites participate in that and everybody else. So we are in a very good position because we've had very good management, so appreciate that.
Thank you.
I also want to thank particularly all of your staff members for the service and the work that you're doing to bring this budget to us. And year after year, month after month, we'll be sitting here waiting for the next one in the next couple of months or so. So thank you. It does take a lot of time and energy. And also, I want to thank Miss Yvonne. Where is she? Oh, there she is. For thinking about thinking about the board members and the trees. So thank you so much for all of your hard work. And you were introduced, and we certainly appreciate it. And I just needed to say that. So I think we're in good shape.
Thank you.
Thank you for making sure we're in good shape and stay in good shape. Thank you. Any other
And
comments?
This is an action item?
Anything?
Action item.
Nothing else? Okay. All right. So we have to take an action item on that. I will entertain a motion to approve the first interim budget and financial report.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Okay, move to approve, Mr. Mandrick, second by Mr. Mark. Discussion, any other discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. Roll call, Mr. Mark Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Harry Block,
Yes.
Mr. Bruce Mandrick,
Yes.
Lily Campbell, yes. So that has been approved unanimously by all board members that are present. Thank you. And now we are moving to the next item under facilities, I believe. That is our next one, yes. And I believe we have a speaker for that. Do we have a speaker for that one?
Yes, we have one public comment from
Okay.
Aaron Porter.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President and Board, for allowing me to speak briefly here this evening. I'm Aaron Porter. I am one of your 3 general contractors who has been invited to bid on the work out at the Studley Boulevard building. And I'm here today because of this project and the amount of time that I've put into it. We've bid it 3 times, as of my competition, so nothing special besides we know the project. But I've also was the contractor who performed the demolition inside the building, opening it up, which was my understanding was to allow the architect and the engineers to see a little bit more of the bones and what they had to work with their plans. During this time, or not during, because of this demolition, we were in there for a couple months and really got to view the plans and the work involved. We were there when the architect and the engineers came in. We carted around our laptop showing the plans to date, pointing out constructability issues, and just some, I don't want to say problems, general complexities that there are with this building and being out at McClellan, the air base. But what's really brought me here today is that I've been anxious. I've been wanting to know what's going on, and I knew there was a board meeting to kind of review or go over the general contractor. And this afternoon, looking online, I found out, or I saw the agenda items for the meeting. And on the agenda items, it had that they were going to recommend one of my competition, which is totally okay. But what surprised me and why I made a point of being here is that recommendation is for a cost of almost $1.2 million more than at least my proposal. And again, I know the project very well. I've spent a lot of time on it. I am confident in my team. I am confident in my subcontractors and everybody that's taken a look at it, that we're not off. We can perform the work at what we propose that we can do. But I just couldn't figure out why. It just seems so extremely odd to me that the number would be over $1 million. Now, I have in my experience, I used to work for 15 years with a general contractor that's now doing $1 billion a year. I found a niche when I started my company 10 years ago because they didn't want to do projects under $10 million. There wasn't enough meat on the bone. And I was like, well, that is a gap I can fill. And that's when the game plan was in place before then, but that's when I executed on it. Now, being told that, a lot of these larger general contractors, I kind of chase around. You guys want to do the $40, $50, $60 million projects, but don't want to do the $2, $3, $4 million projects underneath it? I'm more than happy. And with that, I've been told at times, like, listen, you can be low, but you still won't get the job. If you're $50,000 low, that's just cheap insurance. You know, you need to be $200,000, $250,000, $300,000 low, because then you're getting the real money that may speak to somebody. And I'd say with the work I do, 60 to 70% of it is like that, and that's what I get done. And so I just find it extremely odd, over $1 million, and I wanted to come here and listen tonight, as well as give my voice and opinion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I'm sure it'll be taken into consideration. Thank you. Mr. Superintendent?
Great, thank you, Madam President. So tonight, just want to share with you a little bit of staff's review recommendation and part of the reason why, as you have read in your board agenda, the rationale for this recommendation. As you know, this is for us a major project that will require us to really work very hard to deliver it within a timely manner. I definitely want to publicly say that I appreciate each of our 3 contractors who submitted bids and went through kind of the process 3 times. And part of that really was to ensure that we really had a very fleshed out concept of what we were looking at. The first 2 times we went out with incomplete reports at haste from our staff standpoint. And so the 3rd time we went out with a full set of plans, which is really the appropriate way that these things should be done. And again, learning for us as a team. One of the things that I want to share with you is that while reviewing kind of readily available building permit records, we did find that the vendor or the contractor that we have chosen, Carter Kelly, has worked with approximately 27 similar type projects. Most of those projects were comprehensive construction services for commercial office buildings, medical facilities, school facilities, fire stations, public libraries, warehouses, as well as modular buildings. And most notably, Carter Kelly was the construction and project management team that delivered the Rancho Del Paso new school construction to us in a couple of things. One, under budget and on time, as well as continue to work with our very sensitive scheduling needs to open up a school for 1,000 students. While we do recognize that this is higher than our other bidders, we really, as a staff, feel that the scope of work that this project will require, is one that fits Carter Kelly's ability based on the information that was found from readily available building permit records. And so with that being said, that is the staff recommendation.
Okay, I'm going to entertain a motion and we'll have discussion. So may I have a motion to approve, award the contract for tenant improvement of 5839 Dudley Boulevard project? I need a motion before we discuss.
I'll move approval.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, thank you. And now we will have discussion. Questions, discussions, comments? Anything, board members? Well, I thank you for the information you gave to us and why you selected the person for the project. So, if you have no discussions, no questions, no comments, then I will do roll call. Okay? Roll call, Mr. Mark Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Harry Block,
Yes.
Mr. Bruce Mandrick,
Yes.
Lily Campbell, yes. It has been approved on the recommendations of the superintendent and cabinet. So, thank you. Moving forward. All right. And with that, our next item is board comments, and then we'll be moving into closed session. Board comments at this point from anyone?
I just want to say that we had a CBAC meeting last week, and it went very well. We had more people there than I've seen in a long time, so it was great.
Thank you. Anything else from the board members at this point? I'm looking forward to all of the activities that we have planned from the schools coming up. We have the 14th is the first one this week, and I hope we will all be able to attend coming up Thursday. And then there are activities at different schools, and I'm hoping that I have signed up for some, and I hope that you will be able to sign up for some too, so that we can see what's happening with the winter programs. So with that, and if there are others, we will entertain closing comments when we come back. We are now going to go to closed session. Closed session, employee personnel matter pursuant to Government Code Section 54957. So we will be going into closed session, and we will be returning back after closed session. Thank you. Hello. We are all back from closed session. No action was taken, just information. And so with that, we are getting ready to close out our board meeting for today. The next board meeting?
It's going to be January 16th.
January the 16th. So we will not be back before the winter break. Well, we certainly want to wish all of you happiness.
16?
January 16th.
January.
Okay.
Oh,
Oh,
January 16th, sweetheart.
okay.
So I'm wishing everybody a wonderful winter break, a wonderful holiday time. Take some time for yourselves. Rest. Get some rest, relaxation. Please do that. So when we come back at the beginning of next year, we're all together and ready to go to work. But you've got to take time for yourselves. That's my preaching moment. And I do that frequently. And so with that, do we have any other closing comments?
Yeah, Madam President, just again, want to thank the board, obviously for your work tonight, but also your work throughout this past year of being back in person and continuing your good governance. The principals, which most of them are gone, I will have to tell you, the board has a book that they're doing, which is Districts That Succeed, Breaking the Correlation Between Race, Poverty, and Achievement. So really excited for this book and as they join our learning, because, well, they model what we do. So with that being said, happy holidays to the board. We look forward to seeing you at various school events over the course of the next week.
And some of us will be there. And again, I can't thank you, all of you, enough for your hard work. Cabinet, executive body, all of you, thank you so, so much for the work that you do for GCC parents and students. And so with that, happy holidays, everyone, and I will entertain a motion for adjournment. So moved?
Second.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Meeting's adjourned.